All right, everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and I'm just laughing at this face here. This is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Yeah, let's just cue up the music and let's talk about this picture and everything else around this. God. Former Dragon Age lead writer admits the Veilguard's art style leaves me cold after bashing gamers for criticizing the character designs. These character designs are awful. The choice is just... this art direction is baffling. I don't get why they look so bad. This is 2024, right? We've seen stuff from 5-10 years ago that looks better than this. This is awful. And I don't get it. Put aside all the wokeness in the game, all the non-binary BS and the pronouns and the pansexuality and the gayest game ever and all that other garbage that these people have been espousing. Looking at these characters, I can't stand them. I don't want to play a game where they look like this. Now, granted, this is probably a very bad example of character design. We could look back at any character creator and make some of the most abhorrent creatures possible. I'm talking to you, Ark Survival Evolved. But, but still, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we've seen, like, for instance, on the Canary here, the smoothness up here. It's just really weird looking. It looks unfinished. I don't know. But anyway, former Dragon Age lead writer David Gator admitted that the art style leaves him cold after previously bashing gamers who criticized the game's character designs. Everything looks cartoony. Everything looks Fortnite-y. There's no... It doesn't feel like a dark fantasy type game or fantasy type game at all. It feels like a flashy Marvel meets Fortnite type thing. This guy has, remnants of Doctor Strange to him right there with the big red and the little mustache and all that. It's just, it has that kind of a feel to it. Very comic booky, very colorful, and colorful to a point where it's obnoxious, You would figure a fantasy game would be a little more muted, right? Colors would be a little darker, a little less flamboyant, but whatever. Over on Blue Sky, Gator posted on October 14th, "The females aren't hot enough." Yet, because they've clued into the notion that this is obviously incel behavior, they've swapped out unattractive for masculine, and thus transgender because that's a framing which makes them seem political instead of porn-brained. But we all know what they mean. He added in a subsequent post, "And here I am recalling how this has been a thing ever since some dude whined 10 years ago about Cassandra actually being a man, posting over and over and over about her giant jaw, and posting phrenology pics to scientifically prove why his PP remained flaccid." Alright, Gator, don't be a jackass. So it's not a matter of being hot enough, it's a matter of nobody wants to play with ugly characters. Ugly characters are gross. No one wants to do that. It's, you want decent looking characters. And it's not because you're porn brained, it's not because you want to play with your wee-wee when you're playing or anything like that. That's all you guys just think about. It's we don't want women that look like men. It's pretty simple, right? We don't want big-faced, masculine, broad-shouldered women. That's just gross. There's no appeal to it whatsoever, and in fact, it kind of pushes you away from wanting to play the game. There's a lot of factors. Games are expensive to make. And if you want broad appeal in a game, you should stick to norms, right? Because once you start going outside of norms, you're going to start alienating your core audience, which is the normal person, right? If you start throwing in pronouns, you're going to alienate a certain group of people. If you start throwing in, these ugly, horrendous-looking characters for your main character with no ability to have a semi-decent looking character, then yeah, you're gonna alienate people. If the writing is terrible, the dialogue is cringe and super goofy, like I've heard in this game that the Canary companion introduces himself as or herself or whatever as non-binary. I mean, that's just a fantasy game. Nobody talked non-binary back in the day. This is something new in the last 5-10 years, for God's sake. It's idiotic. It'd be like watching an old movie or a movie based on olden times. Here we are, Alexander the Great, and Alexander meets somebody and says, yes, I'm non-binary. So, what? Absolutely ridiculous. You can't put this modern language into these things. That's like Star Wars. Star Wars is so stupid, right? Star Wars wanted to be more diverse, right? We saw recently they introduced the, I guess, transgender stormtrooper. And it uses the same colors as the transgender flag is here on Earth. This is a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago, guys. They don't know nothing about that flag. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. Why would it be that way, And the whole thing of, making characters different colors and different races and pushing all that. This is a galaxy far, far away and a long, long time ago. Once again, how do we know people did have blue skin, green skin, whatever? It's it's so stupid to try to put us into those kind of things, right? Like dwarves. Dwarves are always white. They made the black dwarves in what is it? Lord of the Rings crap that they're doing now, the Rings of Power. And we see the black elves, we saw black Vulcans, and all that other stuff. And this isn't a knock against black people. It's just funny because you could have an alien race that is just one color, right? We never saw Klingons and then saw like purple Klingons or bright green Klingons or anything like that. They just all kind of looked the same. Whatever. And it is what it is. Anyway. Just a day later, Gator admitted that the art style of Veilguard made him cold when he discussed whether or not he would purchase and play the game. First, he wrote, "A question I receive frequently as of late: will you be playing the new Dragon Age?" Asked with a degree of, anticipation, like this is something I do covertly, despite the current team, or out of interest in hearing my true and honest thoughts. My answer is, it's complicated. He explained, "Honestly, I don't think I can play and enjoy the game like other fans play and enjoy the game. Not ever. On one hand, it'll be fun to play my first DA game post-release without seeing all the compromises and cuts and disappointments from years of development. On the other, it's my baby. It's moved on." He then admitted that the art style leaves him cold. Do I like everything I see? Not really. The art style leaves me a bit cold, but then the art style has changed with every DA, and as before, I'm sure I'll warm up to it eventually. The gameplay's changed. The news on choices from previous games gives me pause. None of this would stop me, however. From there, he said he would... There was a lot to love, but only mentions one, which is the locations he once dreamed to become reality. That's because there's a lot I see which I do love. To go to these places I once dreamed of and finally see them there in all their glory, how cool is that? I have every confidence in Patrick and the writers to enthrall the fans and provide a worthy next chapter. Not a single doubt on that front. But he admitted that what would stop him from playing the game? Ego, probably. If I love it, I know a selfish part of me will ache that I wasn't part of it. And if there are parts I don't love, a part of me will wonder how it might have been. So completely unfair to the team, not to mention ludicrous considering I've been away 8 years now. If I get it on release, it'd probably be just to have something to distract me while the U.S. inevitably self-immolates in November. Talking about the election. These guys can't leave politics out of anything. Chances are I won't. There's no slight to the team, who I wish every success and kudo possible. I know the road to now was paved with horrors, so they deserve it all. Yeah. Anyway, Gator accused people that took issue with the character designs of being incels and chuds on October 17th. I see, so I'm in the process of finally I love these guys. They announce their shutting down of Twitter or X accounts all the time, like it's an airport. I'm leaving, everyone. Goodbye. Make me stay. Talk to me. Gator wrote, I'm in the process of finally shutting down my Twitter account, and yet I noticed a fresh spate of angry mentions there. These more clueless than the last. What could have? I mentioned incels, so who should take notice but the sweaty-palmed, self-declared emotional support animal. He added in a subsequent post, I guess this also means a fresh bunch of chuds wandering over here to make fresh accounts just to object. The clever thing to do, you'd think, when incels are mentioned, but you aren't named, would be to not stand and identify yourself, but identities are important, I guess. It's true. This is the left. They will write off anyone with an opposing argument or viewpoint as a Nazi, a chud, an incel, a bigot, a misogynist, whatever the word of the day is, a fascist, yada, yada, yada. this is what they do. They won't argue, they won't have discussions, because once you do get one of these guys into an honest discussion and you really start to drill down on some points and stuff like that, it always falls apart for them, and then they get angry and then they lash out, and that's when the words come out again. You know, you may start that conversation nicely, and you know, you may make a valid point, and then they may make a valid counterpoint, but then you counter that with a truth that proves them wrong, and this goes back and forth 2 or 3 times, and then next thing you know, F you, you Nazi, blah 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 blah, and then yeah, it's all over and they're screaming. Gator's the perfect example of what happened to modern entertainment as described by science fiction novelist Isaac Young. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. Young talks about identity politics and the left's material desires to just destroy everything and to punish fans and all that. But this isn't the first time that Gator's talked like this. Back in September, he asserted that Dragon Age was always woke, which fits perfectly in Young's theory. Gator wrote on Blue Sky, apparently the usual suspects are upset at how woke the new Dragon Age is, and apparently sudden and unexpected development in the series. He added, effing tourists. Nah, David, you guys are the tourists. So this is another thing that they like to do. They will say that something was always that way. And I've seen it. It's kind of funny because you'll see it in stuff that you grew up with, right? How bad does the LGBT community want Ernie and Bert to be gay? They'll from Sesame Street, right? Ernie and Bert are gay. No, they're not. They were never gay. They never did a gay thing in their lives. You know, they're puppets, first off, okay? They're puppets. They were roommates. They were friends. That was it. And they were opposites. They were like the Odd Couple. You know, it was kind of like the Odd Couple right there. But represented by Muppets. But they wanted him to be gay, you know? They wanted Superman to be gay. They want, you know, they went back and they made Iceman from the X-Men gay because, you know, we had to have a gay X-Men. It was bad enough that the X-Men was always kind of metaphorical for marginalized people, whether they be gay or whatever. It was a multicultural group of mutants from around the world, and it worked, right? And you know why it worked? Because it was metaphorical. It wasn't in your face. They didn't just jam all this garbage and identity politics down your throat. You had some cool characters from all over the world fighting together against injustices. They were seen as different. They were mocked. They were, you know, people wanted to imprison them, kill them, all this other stuff. And it worked because there was some nuance to it. We've lost all that nuance. No one wants to put nuance in things anymore. And that's why it's so intolerable to watch these new shows and these new movies and read the comics and all that, because every point is applied with a hammer. Everything is preached to you. There's no room for interpretation or anything like that. And it's just, yeah, we're all over it. Anyway, Gator also responded to one individual asserting that the individuals decrying Dragon Age, the Veilguard, are woke, are people who gave up on BioWare over a decade ago. He said, if they gave up on BioWare a decade ago or more, for those whom DAO was the last good game, then they are never going to buy the game anyhow, at which point, why should Bio listen to them? Abandon your fan base and woo us instead. Okay, sure, Jan. What do you make of his comments? Well, you know what, man? I can't wait to see this game launch and to see what kind of sales it has. I think it's going to be abysmal. I think this is going to be another fail. It'll sell okay. You know, it'll definitely do okay. Just because, you know, again, a built-in fan base and all that, and all these lunatics are going to go out and save their nickels and dimes and their Starbucks money to go out and try to buy a copy if they can. You know, if they can afford it. Mom, you can have money to buy Veilguard? But, yeah, we're not going to see anywhere near the number of sales that it should be. It's going to be another failure. It's going to be like Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws, and all these other games that have come out in the last couple of years that have just failed. I don't see Concord level failure, but I see something more along the lines of Star Wars Outlaws. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring that bell for notifications. As always, I'm Captain Beefy. This is the Game Vault. I will see you next time. Until then, peace.